Hey everybody, welcome to Houdini Hangout. We are in the first week of October, and hope you're all having a great week so far, a great month. My name's Peter. I am the host of this stream, and tonight we're going to be doing a bit of a Q&A session. So something that we do from time to time here. People bring their questions and thoughts and ideas and things like that, and we try to mess around with them in Houdini. And maybe they're not completely all in Houdini, and we just talk about stuff and be able to chat and things like that. So we have that lined up for today. But first, I wanted to mention that I got to attend the Equinox event up in Toronto last week, which was really awesome. If any of you out there came by and said hello, a few different people came up and hey Fractaler, hey Cavale, welcome. Nice to have you both. A few different people came up to me during that event and said hello and said, that they enjoyed the stream and things like that, which was all very, very nice. Hey, Zach, how's it going? And so, it was really nice to be able to meet some new folks and just have some nice conversations. There's a lot of great presentations that'll be going up online in probably the next couple, probably next couple weeks, week or so maybe. There's a lot of presentations, so I'm sure that the marketing team is feverishly editing things and getting things ready. But there were some really cool presentations. I got to sit through some of them and got to be like a teacher's assistant in a bunch of workshops. So it was really great. How was the Equinox event? It was great. It was very nice. Got to do a little social event at one point. I think it was on Wednesday night. There was a social and got to do a bunch of different workshops. Got to see a little bit about the one workshop was RBD. There was one about Solaris. There was one about some animation stuff. And then, we did a beginner's workshop all day the first day, which was cool. So it was really awesome. Great event. So big shout out to the Side Effects marketing team for putting that all together and getting that all rolling, which was, I'm sure no small feat. It was great from that standpoint, and hopefully we'll be doing it again next year. You never know what the plans are or things like that. I'm certainly not privy to those until much closer to the event date. Hopefully we'll do another thing like that next year, and we'll see how that keeps going. It was a lot of fun. So if you were there at the event and stopped and said hello, thank you so much. That was very nice and very kind to hear from some people and get to chat with a bunch of people, new people that I hadn't met before. It was really, really good from that side of things. So today we'll be doing a bit of a Q&A session here. We'll be doing, just kind of open question and answer and chat and whatever that might look like. Just my normal kind of run-of-the-mill spiel before we get going here. If you have a question, if you have a thought, if you think I'm doing something stupid and think I should do it a different way, those are all fair things to drop in the chat. Always interested to hear, learn different ways of doing things, better ways of doing things. That's, I'm not here to just talk at people. I like to be able to learn myself as well. So if there's things that I don't know, it's great to get to learn them. So this time is a little bit different where we don't have kind of a centralized idea to kind of start the whole thing off. But as you guys have questions and thoughts, drop them in the chat. If you have something even just something you're like, I think I'm struggling with this. What's the workflow there? I mean, happy to have those conversations as well. Really just about anything is fair game here. So please feel free to drop things in the chat, and yeah, we'll kind of get rolling here. Yeah, so another thing I'll just bring up while people maybe are formulating questions or thoughts or things like that is that you can go onto HoudiniHangout.com and get an invite link to join the Discord server. So if you'd like to be a part of that conversation there, please go there, grab an invite link and all of that. There is a spot for topic suggestions. So when I'm not having kind of open kind of question and answer type streams like this, that's a place where you can go and drop suggestions for different topics and things like that. So that's certainly something that that you can do, and yeah, you can add different topics. I haven't seen anybody really put anything in there in the last little bit, but yeah, there's certainly you know, there's always different people that throw questions and suggestions in there as well. So yeah, so that's something just to keep in mind. That's also part of the Discord server. So yeah, if you have any questions or thoughts or ideas or anything like that, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and I will get over to them. Okay, Newhod has a question. Thanks so much for these hangouts. I was wondering if you could go over the process for having a complex scene, such as an environment with lots of foliage and a hero asset. Curious to know. So I'm guessing that you're talking about setting something up in Solaris, is my guess. And really, when it comes to that, it's really about hierarchy of your scene, right? And like how to kind of work with that. There's a few main things that you would want to do. So yeah, okay. So how would you approach it? Specifically, if we author individual foliage as USD, or we make the environment as one big USD file? No, I think here's your best bet when it comes to working in USD. I think it's oftentimes we try to do a lot of stuff in one main file, right? Like, and just kind of work in our HIP file, and that's fine with Houdini, right? Like standard Houdini stuff. But let's just move over to our software, and we will talk a little bit about this. Hi, Ishita. Welcome. Nice to have you. All right. Let's see here. So let me first go over to Solaris. And so the question is, how would you approach this? Would you have individual foliage as USD, or would you make an environment as one big USD file? My thought, whenever I'm kind of going into making a scene like this, would be that if you have assets in your scene, right? Like each kind of main asset should probably be written to disk. And the idea there would be that, like, if we had a tree, right, we'd want to make that into an asset and then make sure that that's referenced in some way, right? Probably referenced and then instanced throughout your scene. And that is kind of the concept that we'd want to go with, right? You wouldn't want to have, you wouldn't want to just like start building. Ashita, I guess you're asking me something in maybe another language, but I don't know what you're saying. But welcome and nice to have you here. I'm from the United States, if that's what you're asking. Welcome. So let's just say we were going to do something like a tree or something like that. Let's do a component builder real quick, and we'll just kind of take a look at how we might set this up. So here's our component builder. I'm just going to make some component geometry real quick. Let's do like a super simple tree here. We'll just do a tube here, and we'll make this really small. So it's like, well, not really small, but like, I don't know, maybe a 0.5 meter here. And this could be... So a question here while I'm messing around with this is, have the old masterclass format videos gone out of style? No, I wouldn't say that they have. There might be fewer of them, certainly. But no, they certainly are still things that are being done. I think it's just hard because some of the new things that have come up have been like entire new contexts. So making a masterclass on an entire new context could be kind of tricky to do. So, but there was a muscle masterclass that came out sometime this year or last year. Yeah, it was super, there's so much to it. So that was something that came out not too long ago. Let's see here. Let's make this something like that. And we'll make the top radius like this and an end cap. And we'll just do something super simple here. So just like this and some more height, possibly. Just kind of play around with this. All right. So we're not going to do anything too crazy here. I'm just going to change these to maybe 48 just to give ourselves a little more, whatever. And let's just do some color just to make it something. So this is going to be a brown. I don't know. We'll just do an orangish color here. Great. And then we'll do another color and do some green here. Cool. So here's a tree. We'll throw it in here, right? And this is going to make a tree like this. And when we look at this over here in our scene graph tree, we've got a tree. So that's great. I'm not even going to worry about making a material with it. We're just going to have a tree asset here, right? And so when we're talking about taking something and copying it and instancing it a bunch, right? We could take something like an instancer here. That's interesting. I think we changed that icon. Interesting. So if we took this, did the prototype like this, and we grab the prototype primitive here and set tree. Okay. And then we're going to take grid. Let's do scatter and align. And we'll do number of points, something like that. Cool. So now we've got a whole bunch of trees, right? We've got a ton of trees here. We can also, let's see, we can come in here and let's go even crazier. Let's do like 5,000, right? So we've got a ton of these here. Let's do some, actually, let's see, can we do by size? Let's just do it something like that. Now we've got some scattered randomness. Great. Okay. So we've got some randomness on our instancer here. All good. Now this is right now a point instancer, right? So we've got all these prototypes and things like that. The way that this is being created is if we come in here to our new pane type, we go to Solaris and do scene graph layers, we can see that we're working with just really one layer here, right? We have a couple layers that are being written here by this component output. But maybe even more specifically, what I'll do is I'll take this. So this is actually doing some stuff already for us. But if we do a SOP create instead, hey Sprawa, welcome. Let's just call this tree one, sure, whatever. We'll just call this SOP tree actually. Cool. And let's plug this in here. This is obviously not happy. So I'm going to grab the SOP tree, right? And so now if we look at this, right, we have all sorts of, we should just have one layer, right? And everything's being written onto it. And if we take a look at this here, sorry, like this, let's see here. What we can do is we can do lop actions, and we can say inspect active layer, I think is what we want. Yep. So that's a way that you can see this. And we can see that basically we have all of this data here, right? These are all of the different orientations. We've got everything like that being written. This is for our instancer. And then we're going to go way down here, and there's going to be all sorts more like point positions and things like that. And then down here, we'll actually have our tree information and all that kind of stuff. And so we only still have one layer here, right? And so this is all written as is, right? It's all kind of in memory in one layer. We can also do, we could do a configure layer here if we wanted to. And then this would then, we could write a save path, and we could say flatten the input layers, for example, and give it a save path of $hip/USD/test.us. I don't know, we'll do this. Something like that, right? And now if we look at this and come down here, we need to start a new layer. And if we come down here, we should see, let's see here. Why is this not doing it? What am I doing here? Let's see here. We'll merge this into the active layer. Great. And then why is that in that same layer? Interesting. Should have a new layer. That's very strange. Okay. Sorry. There we go. I'm not sure why it's doing that, but basically this would write it to disk, and then that would reference this in here. Oh, I know, because we're not actually bringing the same layer in here, so it's just being referenced on here. So if we take a look at this here and inspect the active layer, I see what I did here, sorry. I'll merge that again. This should be good. Great. Okay, so if we take this and we take our lop actions, inspect active layer, this should have a reference in it somewhere here. So let's see here. We should be able to find... let's see here. Oh, sorry. What we actually could do is do some sort of a reference here. Sorry. So we did like a reference here, and if we cleared this and we referenced, this should be making a reference from that. And there we go. Now we're starting to actually reference this, and did I do this wrong? Sorry, I don't know why this is not working right. But it does have a save path. Anyways, so the question here would be, I don't know why this is not working right now, but that's okay. We'll just keep going. This is the fun of live presentation stuff. But so what you would want to do basically is save these as individual files, and we could do that actually even more easily by just doing a USD ROP, right? So we could do this and just save this as a USD file. Here, call this USD. Hip name from this and just call this tree. We'll save that to disk. There we go. Sorry, I'm just using the wrong menu options here. So then if we did a reference, this will work. So we'll grab this, reference in our USD, our tree here, and then throw that in there. And we'll just make sure that we're grabbing the right thing here. Great. So now what we have is we have two different layers here. So we have this, this tree coming in here, tree 1 USD, and we're referencing that in. And then this is our active like layout layer here, right? For example. And when you're doing stuff like that, you're kind of reducing your overhead on your memory and your scene, right? And you're able to then have those files streaming in directly from disk and doing a lot more heavy stuff with them, right? If you can imagine if this wasn't just a cone with a tube, it would be quite a bit heavier, and you'd be able to kind of offload quite a bit of that. The other thing you could do is when you have assets set up like this one here, so this was just a really generic way of doing this, right? But if we did this, and if I saved this to disk here, this will be my tree asset. And we did an asset reference here. Not that it really matters much difference, but you can see how this works as well. We'll reference this one in, and we have assets, tree, and there's our tree USD. Now this is a much more complicated asset that comes in, and we could just make sure to call this, we'll call this tree asset like that. So now we've got our tree asset there. It doesn't have any materials on it or anything. But if I go here and select that, this is built a little bit differently. And because we're using this component geometry here, we're able to get the extents of it. And it creates this concept of a payload, right? And so when we're doing this here, we can actually unload those payloads. So we can say, unload our payloads. And now we have a viewport that's incredibly fast. I'm going to just update this here because I don't have that set up. I'm going to set that as my defaults. Sure. Sorry. I haven't messed with this on my Houdini 21. But you can see here, if I change the background to dark gray, you can see all of these bounding boxes here, right? And so now we can make our scene super, super lightweight and be able to do some of these things really, really quickly when we have really large scenes. So this is where you get into a really nice thing with that. So here's the question about this is there a fundamental difference between using the reference node as opposed to a sublayer node? The fundamental difference between those two nodes is that the sublayer is really meant more for using, like bringing in entire scenes as one, or bringing in like departmental files, right? So like if you have something for your layout, you have something for your animation, things like that, those you would kind of sublayer on top of your scene, and then that kind of composes the scene together. Whereas with references, those are primarily used to bring in assets from disk, right? And so the asset reference is a good one. So reference there, that gives us just a little bit more like transform and some variant information that we can use on it. But with the traditional reference, that doesn't have those. So that's really the only difference between the two. So if you're bringing in like something like decorations for a shelf, or a bunch of components that have all been kind of put together, those you would bring in with a reference or an asset reference. You wouldn't bring those in with a sublayer. Also the difference is that you can rearrange a reference. So a reference can be put really anywhere in your scene graph, right? So here, for example, if I have this as a reference, I'll just make another one so I'm not breaking anything here. Let me just turn these back on so we can see it, my amazing tree. And here you can see I've got this destination primitive, right? You don't get that in a sublayer. So I could put this at world, geometry, tree asset, right? So now I have world, geometry, and my tree asset. So this is something you can't do with a sublayer. So sublayers, just bring it in exactly as it is and put it exactly in the like namespace or the path in the scene graph tree. So that's kind of your main difference between those two things there. So, so a few different things there that are reasons why you would use it or not use it. And they are quite different in their exact kind of usage. If you are curious to know a little bit more about some of like the more in-depth stuff of that, there's a course that I put out that had the name USD with Solaris. And so you can look those up on the Houdini or the side effects website under the tutorial section, and you should be able to find a few different USD with Solaris. So there's a basics, there's an authoring one, which is a bit more getting into like the the details of working with USD. And then there is also an asset building one, which goes into kind of how the component builder is built and why it sort of does the things it does, and building a scene from there with some assets. So yeah, I get a lot of questions about these things, and for sure it's a little different than how, standard Houdini works. But yeah, so that's, hopefully that answers your question. And we'll call this Solaris. I'll just call it Solaris question. Cool. All right. If you have any other questions, like I said earlier, please feel free to put them in the chat. This is just kind of an open Q&A. So if you have any thoughts or questions, that's certainly what we're here for, to have some conversations and things like that. So, yeah, glad this hopefully was slightly helpful for you. I'm not sure why that that stop create was doing what it was doing. It may have actually been that I was doing something just stupid here. So let me just double check this here and see. Let me see here. Start a new layer. And then if I do, I don't know, I'll just add something else super dumb, like a light. Yeah, there we go. Now it's actually adding a new layer. So yeah, I'm not sure why. Yeah, maybe it was just because I was doing the instancer thing and that was causing some issues. But if you put these configure layers in here and then run a USD ROP downstream of it, it'll actually fire off the writing of all those files. So just something to keep in mind. Second question was related to a basic workflow of a simple scene. If I have 3 cameras merged into the tree and further down I want to move them, the changes are propagated with an edit camera node. Yeah, I think this is where, so the question about basically is there something missing with the workflow if you have cameras up on top and then you're doing an edit camera later on? No, I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with that. The only problem is that you'll get into this idea of where those changes live on the USD file, right? Especially if you're doing something like really complicated, like you're trying to save out different files and work a bit more like that. So in this same kind of vein, right? Let's try that here. Let's just play around with that a little bit, right? So if we had this here and we had a camera, actually, I'm going to do primitive because I will be able to make cameras quite a bit quicker here. So let me just call this cam1, and I'm just going to copy this cam2, cam3, and I'm actually going to put this under cameras. Okay. And this is going to be a camera, right? So now if we look at our geometry spreadsheet, we actually have 3 cameras. They're all in the same spot. And so then we have this tree here and we've got that. Let's just adjust this a little bit here. Maybe I'm going to put this under geometry. And then let's say that we were bringing, let's see here. Just trying to think of how the best way to kind of show this would be. Let's say we were using this instancer again, and instead of doing it that way on the second input, we're just going to pull this off and use the first input, and I am going to select the geometry SOP tree, and that should work. And now we've got our SOP tree here. And So this has hidden our main SOP tree. We have our instancer here with our prototypes and all this stuff, right? So we have all of these things going on, right? And let's just say, you know, if we had written this to disk, for example, that may be, yeah, let's actually do that. Sorry, let's write it to disk. Why not? So let's do this, and we'll just call this tree and cameras, like that. We'll save this to disk. And then if we, let's just say we sublayer this back in, right? Here, and we grab this same file. That should bring that in. Yep. All right. So now we've sublayered this back in. So we've got that file off disk. And now let's use this instancer here, and we will pull that same thing, right? So this is where some of the trickiness is going. Hello? Oh, right. First input. There we go. SOP tree, apply. There we go. Okay. So this is where some of the weirdness is going to come in, right? Because we've now saved this information out, right? And this tree and the cameras, for example, are here. And then we go downstream and we have now this new information here. And if we were doing this and we wanted to say, grab this camera and say, I think we would do that. Yep. Edit with a new node, and we could move this around now. Let's just say, oh, I actually grabbed the, I think that's the, let's just do this. I'll take this and we'll go to camera 1 and I'll just move it around like this. And this is going to make edit camera. Let's just say this is the direction here that we have for it, right? Well, this camera data is now going to be stored in this same layer with this instancer. And so that's fine, right? But now you have kind of this, you have these kind of, how can we think of this? We're kind of have a layer here that we've built with things that are kind of all mushed together. And now we're going to have a layer here that isn't really well defined either. This is kind of like some layout stuff and some camera stuff. If we look at this here, or we go here and do our inspect active layer and take a look at this, what we can see is that we have our camera data down here, and we have some, we're setting our geometry invisible. That's part of this instancer stuff here. So that is, that's kind of the issue that you run into, I think, is what you were kind of seeing. So what I would suggest is if you had to bring cameras in and you wanted to kind of keep them constrained to an area of your kind of your network, I wouldn't put cameras in with geometry to start with up at the top. Like I wouldn't have something like that mixed together. If you wanted to, if you did have a file that was given to you like this for some reason, I think what a better thing to do would actually be to reference each of those in. So if I was to take this out, oh, yeah, there we go. We referenced in the tree and cameras here. So I would call this, I don't know, I'll just call it like that. And we'll take a look here. What do we have? Reference tree. Oh, I've got a camera that I'm looking through. So I'm just going to move that, hit G, there we go. Okay, so now we have our tree, right? But we can reference a specific primitive here. So let's just make sure that we're grabbing our SOP tree. Okay, great. So we've got our tree. And so the cameras are a USD asset in itself. Yep. So what I would do when you're referencing in multiple things like that is just when you're going to bring in your cameras and work with them, just reference those in. I'll show you kind of like this, right? So here we're going to bring in this, and we'll just call it, I'll just do $OS for this. That's fine. That's a reference tree. Here's this, and I'm going to do the instancer here. And then let's see here. We're just going to do this and call it like that. Okay, great. So you've got your referenced tree here, right? And then your instancer, and maybe this would be saved to disk or something like that. let's just imagine that you saved it to disk, for example. And then what I would do after that is do a reference again and wire this in like this. Change this to $OS, and I'll just call this reference cameras, and I'll grab the tree and cameras here. And then I'm going to specify here that I want to bring in this primitive, and we are going to have our reference cameras now. And so, yes, you would still have your edit, right? Because you can't, if you're bringing them from disk, you cannot have, you can't just like edit the cameras, right? Because it's coming from a file on disk. So yes, you have to have your edit node here to be able to edit them and move them around. However, this is going to be a lot nicer because now we have our camera here that's been edited, right? It's over there now. And this will now live kind of in its own layer here, right? And so we can write this out. Now you can force a layer break as well, but really your configure primitive here. Yeah, you certainly could do that. I don't know unless you have really specific things on your cameras why you need to reference those in as assets, but yeah, you can do that way. Oh, I did this wrong. I want to do layer. I want to do configure layer here. So this would be sort of how this would look a little bit more. So here we could save this as hip.usd/layout.usd, right? So this is our layout. We'll say start a new layer. And so now we should have a brand new layer here. So we should, if we look at this here, have our instancer and our cameras all written together. And now this camera information is going to just live in its own layer on disk. So this is really more of how I would work if I had something like that, where I had specific cameras that I needed to bring in. If they're all at origin, I would just make cameras and not have them referenced in as assets. But just because that's going to make your life a little bit easier. But really this edit camera is just overwriting. It's in an edit action instead of a create. So it's really just kind of adding some translation stuff on top of it, pending some translations. So yeah, that would be my 2 cents for this. I think hopefully that makes sense. And this configure layer here is working like a layer break. When you click this start new layer, that effectively turns it into a layer break, or it has a layer break within it. No, I guess not within it. It's not an HDA, but it does a layer break for you. Okay, so hopefully that makes some sense there, Nuhad. Hopefully that answers some questions for you. Yeah, of course, Nuhad. If you go to the Discord server, there is a thing called Houdini Hangout hip files, hip files, or something like that. You can go into that thread, and then you can just you can find a Google Drive link that'll have all of the stream files in it, basically. So cool. All right, let's go back up here because I saw there was another question. Sprawa asked, I have one question. Some time ago, I exported VDB to Unreal and discovered it was teleporting every frame. Issue was bounding box was increasing with VDB as the smoke grew every frame. Unreal doesn't like that. How do Houdini people deal with that? Can you freeze bounding box of VDB simulation? So I have normal VDB simulation happening, but I set a custom bounding box for it. So yeah, you could. Well, the problem, I'm not 100% sure of how Unreal sees that bounding box, because VDBs are a little bit weird, right? Because if we go to this here, let's make geometry. Let's just say VDB bounds, and we'll go inside. So let's do, I'm going to do a cloud shape generate. That's what it is, I think. Caps lock off. Okay, so these are some of the newer cloud tools, and I think we do a VDB from particles here, and then that gives us this, and we can do some density with it. Maybe I'll make this a little bit bigger. Maybe I'll do like 2 on this, right? So VDBs are kind of strange in some ways, right? Because they're sort of, there's different ways that they can be described, right? If we were to look at this, let's see here. How can I show this well? Well, actually what I can do is I can do, what is it? VDB, what is it called? Visualize tree. So there's a couple of different ways that this is kind of done, right? So if we have our, yeah, we don't need to look at that. But if we look at this, right, we have our bounding box here, right? But then we also have some other geometry that's kind of showing how this is built, right? And so it's tricky with VDBs because a lot of times they're trying to do this pruning, which basically makes sure that, basically gets rid of anything that's less than a certain value, right? I think if you do the VDB from polygons, you'll see that in there. No, where do you see that? Maybe in VDB convert. If you go from a volume to a VDB, yes, there's this prune tolerance here, right? And then this is where you can have like constant regions and it gets rid of them, right? Because with a traditional like dense like Houdini VDB, you'll have values across the whole thing. With a Houdini volume. With VDBs, they're sparse like this, so they're going to be able to kind of have regions of them that don't have to have values in them, and you can prune those out and have them kind of inactive regions. So that causes some trickiness with what you're saying there, because I'm not sure which one Unreal is seeing. My guess is that, yeah, of course, Saruer, welcome to Ask Whatever. So my guess is that it probably is taking the bounds, but that can be kind of tricky to set up, and really, I'm not sure. You'd probably just make your files like way bigger, just to be like, because you'd be making your bounds as big as it possibly could get, right? If your simulation is growing the whole time, you'd have to make your bounds really big, and then that could make it really difficult to work with. What I would recommend is, if you're working with Smoke, I would take a look at the new Zebra VDB, because if you're going over to Unreal, that's a really nice workflow, and you don't have to pay for it now, because if you're not a commercial user, it's free for indies and students and stuff like that. So I would take a look at that, and it's already built in here. So if you do Zebra file cache, I think it is, it'll write it right to a Zebra VDB file, and you can read that in over in Unreal, and it's a really nice workflow. I've done it myself. So I would really recommend going this route, because it makes things a lot easier, makes the files a lot smaller, and it plays back really, really easily and well over in Unreal. Probably way better than any VDB is going to play back, especially if you're doing a really like large simulation. So I'd take a look at that. That would be my suggestion. I think you're going to jump through a lot more hoops going the standard VDB way, and probably not get as good a performance with them. So that would be my thoughts for you on that. Okay. Fractaler asked, is there a way to open HIP files with the correct version? sorry, I'm just going to read Sprawa's response to that. Didn't try it out yet because I want to try vanilla workflow. Yeah, I think you're gonna, I don't really think there's a great vanilla volume workflow. There's never really been anything that Houdini has like, or side effects has specifically like recommended. All of our stuff has been through labs and through like, you know, writing out image textures and things like that. So yeah, I would look at that because that's really the first one that I've seen that's more effective. So, okay, sorry. Fractaler was saying, is there a way to open HIP files with the correct version I created it with? I think that information is saved somewhere in the Houdini file. I don't know. I was thinking maybe there was like a variable or something that was in here. Oh yeah, save version 24. Yeah, so this was obviously saved with this one. So with that, I'm not sure if there would be a way to do that. It would have to be through the command line interface, and you'd have to then make sure that you have the right file, like the right version loaded. So it might cause you some headaches. I'm guessing there could be something in the command line, like stuff, but beyond that, I don't know of a way to specifically open it like that. I mean, they should work. That's kind of the goal, is like, you know, backwards compatibility and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm not sure if there's a good way to do that, but there might be a way to, let's see, is there a thing for like command line? Yeah, starting Houdini from the command line. Yeah, it doesn't even look like it would be in here that I'm seeing. Profile startup. No, it doesn't look like it. So I don't think there's a way to specify that I know of, but that would be where you might be able to find it. Okay, so let me see what else here is in the chat. I'm just gonna go up here. Okay, so Ktal was asking, do I have any experience with exporting OBJ files with .mtl from Houdini? So do I have any experience with exporting OBJ files with material from Houdini? No, I don't. I don't think I've ever done that. Is there a reason that you want to do OBJ and MTL? Are you transferring it? What other program are you transferring it to? And like, I feel like that's going to be pretty limited in what it's going to be able to do anyways. So I'd be curious if you have a reason why you're looking for those two, and maybe I'd have a better suggestion of a different file type, maybe. Jakimov asked, question about vector fields. What would be a good way to avoid particles going outside the velocity field due to zero velocity? They won't move. This is a problem when you use these velocity fields in Engine. So I'm guessing with Engine, are you talking about like if you're talking about using I'm guessing you're talking about doing like a particle sim or something like that in Engine, which not 100% sure if that's the best idea, especially if you're in like Unreal. You could always do like Niagara particles and things like that, but and use like a velocity field to advect those. I think, yeah, I would be kind of curious if you couldn't do that, because I've been doing a little bit of like presentations for schools and stuff like that, and gentleman Chris Chapman has been coming to those, and he's been talking about Niagara particles, which I don't have a ton of familiarity with, but just because most of my knowledge is about getting from Houdini into Unreal, not really in Unreal. But I would be wondering if you couldn't export your velocity field from Houdini, maybe through Engine. Maybe Engine would be able to get it over, kind of in like updating it over into, and maybe you could like update it continuously through the engine and feed that into Niagara. And then outside of the Houdini velocity field, just have like some sort of a force that's maybe like a drag force, instead of just, set it to be some sort of velocity field or something like that. Okay, it's for an art directable velocity field when it has to be very specific. Sure, of course, that makes sense. So use velocity fields in a particle engine, make it in Houdini, then export it. Yeah, so I guess if you're doing a particle simulation, maybe a good way to do it would be, obviously you could just expand the velocity field, right? You could just make it bigger. There's no reason it has to be like a certain scale or whatever, just so that you don't run out of room, and then have like a nice fall off that's going to go as it goes further and further away. So it's going to fall off like slowly to 0, I guess, or it could fall off to some constant value in the background, and you could add some drag to it so that it's going to also like slow down. I'm not sure. I'm guessing gravity would be involved in it too. So if the velocity field was like lessening, then gravity should take over as well. So yeah, doing some like fall off as far as the speed of that velocity field would be a thing. The other thing too is if you're doing a particle simulation and you're getting to the like, it also depends on how you're like writing that velocity field like constantly in your simulation, right? Because if you're doing I guess if you're doing it advecting particles, let's just play with that for a second here. Let's do a geometry node here. All right, let's do this, and let's just do a pop network. Just put a sphere into it, nothing crazy, and we'll just do, let's see here. No, what am I doing? This. We'll do attributes and do add to inherited velocity. Do a little bit of variance there, and that's going to go off like this. Great. Let's see if we can't make a little random velocity field here. Let's see. I'm just going to make something maybe really quickly. Hopefully this will work. Points from volume. Here's our sphere. Let's make this quite a bit bigger. And I'm just going to do some... let's do attribute noise. Will that work? Let's see. Yeah, that's great. So let's do this. We've got some velocity there. Let's just see what this looks like here. We've got some background, dark gray. Let's see if we can see that any better. Probably not. We've got some vectors on there. and we'll animate those and just call it good. And then I'll just, maybe I'll just space these out a little bit more. I'm just going to rasterize this, I think. And let's do this with V. That's too big. Just want to make sure that I'm okay. Shouldn't have dragged that. That was dumb. Okay, that should be fine, I think. Let's just do like maybe like this, just to make sure we've got enough that we're don't have any like weird dead zones there. And we'll just do a null here, and we should have velocity there. Great. Okay, so we'll just call this vel. Let's come in here. We'll do an add vect. Oh, clicking too quick. And let's just grab that vel. So if we're going to do this here, let's just see what happens here. So we're going to get our velocity, and it's going to be doing this thing. Actually, you know what? Let's just not even animate this. We don't need to. We'll just turn off animation here. Oop. Oh, that's why. It's the wrong field. It's like, what's going on here? Great. Let's turn off the guide. Just let that go. Let's make this a little smaller, just to make sure we get to the edge of it here. And let's maybe make this a little smaller on the element scale. All right, let's hit play on that. And yeah, so using something like this, we're going to, I'll even give this a little bit more velocity scale here. Let's do that. You know, as it comes out, it just kind of like slows down, right? It doesn't really like have like a hard edge. So if you're making a custom velocity field and advecting particles around and things like that, I would try to do something a bit more like this, like pop advect by volumes or something like that, where you can have this edge update the force. Because if we update something like position, for example, when we get to the end of it, it should stop, I believe. Maybe not. No, I guess not in this one. Update velocity will, sorry. So yeah, if we do this, now we're just going to, that's weird. I'm not sure why exactly that's doing it like that. But this is stopping hard when it gets to the edge, right? And so you want to be doing something like force updates and things like that, and then that'll allow it to kind of smoothly go off the edge a little bit more. The other thing you could do is just make a larger field and have it slowly go off to 0, right? And have it slowly kind of fade off and not just hit like a wall. But hopefully that helps. Okay, cool. Let's see. So Saruer was asking, sorry, I'm just looking to see if there's any more information here. In case you want to explain my question, a sphere falling, then it breaks, the pieces start moving with the water flow / points. Yeah, no problem, Jakimov. Welcome. Glad to give you some thoughts. Hopefully that might spur you into a direction that might be interesting. So sphere falling, then it breaks, the pieces start moving with the water / flow points. I did it, but the water isn't strong enough to push the pieces. What are you using specifically to do it, Saruer? Is it are you using flip and RBD, or are you doing something else? Are you doing some other type of workflow? Because there's certainly a few different ways that could be done today. And if you're doing it with like the buoyancy idea, that's always been a little tricky to do. With like the feedback and everything like that. What I might recommend to do is, instead of trying to use like the buoyancy of it, maybe have some velocity be transferred over using like a custom solver. So it would like basically look at the fluid that's near it. The river with the DOPNet. So okay. So I think I see what you're saying. What the reason that those aren't working together like that is because those are kind of two different simulations, right? So simulations don't naturally talk to each other. It's a little bit tricky to do that. Honestly, you have to kind of usually write some sort of a custom solver. If you want to do something more in that, realm, there might be better ways of doing it. Maybe. The other thing you could always do too, is like, because I'm guessing it's falling on a surface, right? And then you're trying to get it to kind of flow away. I'm guessing that's the scenario. I think the better thing to do there would be to run it. If you need it to be like coupled two ways like that, you would really need to have it all sort of in one, being simulated kind of at once, which is really tricky to do. Definitely not a newbie kind of thing to do. I'm just trying to think if there's like a good way of maybe suggesting that to be done differently. You could take a look at NPM. That actually might be a better workflow for you, because let me just see if I can do this real quick, and not kill my computer here. So let's just see npm water. So if we took this here, did a sphere, hello, can I type? Great. We'll do an npm configure. That's going to drop down all the things we need for it. Actually, I can just use this. I don't need to use the collider, so I can get rid of this for right now. So let's just get rid of that. rid of this. Okay, cool. So let's just do this for right now. I actually don't think I'm going to need that at all. Okay, so I have this sphere. Let's go to our npm source. We can do a preset. Maybe we'll do concrete. Let's see if this breaks. I'm not sure if it will. It's going to be slow. Anything, as things get harder in npm, they slow down quite a bit. So right now it's compiling the kernels that it needs, and we'll see what happens when this starts moving. But yeah, so npm is really nice because you can actually have multiple like layers of thing kind of working together. It's for anything from a solid through to like a liquid. And so they all work together in the same simulation. So I'm just letting this compile real quick. Well, real quick. It takes a minute to compile. We're compiling the OpenCL information. Oh, I've got my scene graph layers open still. Should probably close that once this starts going. Okay, just reading what Sarua wrote. Yeah, the sphere falls on a surface, an empty river then breaks, then the river starts flowing, so the water should push the sphere pieces. So, okay, so the nice thing about this workflow is that, well, first of all, the reason this is probably compiling slowly is because I'm using my CPU to do the encoding and things like that, so there's some slowness here for the compiling side of things. What you should be able to do now is also have something like this with like a concrete, like a hard concrete object, and be able to fracture your geometry much better than we were originally able to do in 20.5 when this was released. So hopefully this will fracture when it falls. That's my hope. If it doesn't, I will try to adjust the strength of it, but that won't take nearly as long as this does to compile. Hey, John, thanks so much. Appreciate having you here. Thanks for being here to watch. There we go. Now we've got some stuff happening. Okay, let's hope this breaks and fractures and does something interesting. We'll see. It just bounces. That's all it does. Yep, too solid. Okay, so let's see if I can't, let's see if we can't. I'm just trying to remember here. All right, let's see if we do 30 here, if this is any less solid. You can see now we don't have to do that compiling step anymore. Well, that's good, Fractaler. I'm glad you're able to open Houdini up today. Let's see here. Let's do... let's cut that in half again. I'm not sure if we're gonna... I don't know. Let's see. So as the stiffness goes down, the speed is going to go up. So let me change this back to 60 where it was before. And I'm going to change this down 1. See if that does anything for us here. So because it's less stiff, the speed is going to go up. Okay. I'm just going to go way down with this. I just want to see. Yep. Okay. That's not what we want. That just smushed into nothing. Okay. So this is just smushing now. So let's see here again. Let's do 30. And I think... I can never remember which one of these is which. Let's up this one here, critical stretch. Nope. Let's lower this one, see if this does it. Gosh, I can never remember. If this isn't going to work, I'm going to just open up the help file and see if... or, you know what? I could do npm configure. Is there one of these that's going to work for me? Not really. Here, sorry, let's do 60 here. And let's just do a -10 velocity. See if that can crack it. Doesn't seem like it. All right. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to go get myself a beverage. I just need a beverage real quick. And I am going to be back in a second. So, yes, sorry for that. I just need to take a quick break, and I will be right back. All right. Sorry about that. Had to go grab myself a beverage. All right. So what I was saying, I'm trying to figure out when it loops. Yeah, I've had that for a while. I've used it infrequently, but let's see. Let's see here. What was I doing? Oh, thanks. Yeah, it was a fun one. Made it a while ago. All right, let's do this. I just want to take a look at this because I just want to look if there's any better. Critical stretch. Was it 10 seconds? I think it's 17 seconds, as weird as that is. I don't know why that's the specific time I chose, but that's funny. Let's see here. Let me just see if there's something I'm missing here. Hi, Robert. I'll get to your question in a second. I'm just going to try this real quick and see if I can't. Just going to try to play around with some of these things here. Don't know why this is the case, why it's not breaking apart. Oh, you know what? This is maybe what I'm thinking of here. Yeah, so this is a new thing that was added. More recently. I'm just looking here to see. Okay, maybe that's what we need to noise up the E attribute. Interesting. Let's try that. Here. And that's the stiffness. Okay. Let's see. Attribute adjust float. That's fine. Let's do this here. Can I visualize these as not spheres? Sure. That's great. This we will do E noise, and we're going to multiply this. And let's visualize it. Of course, we need some auto there because that's a huge value. So let's do this here, and we'll change the size of this maybe. And let's see what happens there. And I'm going to do this and just kind of crunch that a little bit. Let's see if that does anything better for us. Let's see here. Doesn't seem like it. Hey. Sorry, this one's not working out so well. I was kind of hoping I'd be able to do this pretty quickly. Let's do that. That's so weird. All right, let's really give this a huge variance, I guess. I don't understand why this isn't breaking. Yeah, I might have to play with that. I'm not sure why that one isn't breaking, to be honest. Let's just see. What if I go really crazy with it? Yeah, that really looks like concrete, doesn't it? Okay. Well, we'll have to try. I'll have to try that again another time. I'm not sure why that's doing that, but that would be my suggestion, is to look into NPM. So sorry for the long-winded kind of run around there, but let's see what other questions there are. And maybe if we have time, I'll get back to that. Yeah, it's good concrete. Robert is asking, hey, is there currently a way to paint on an object directly from within Copernicus? No, there is not, unfortunately. That is something that's a deficiency that obviously the developers know about. Yes, right now it's a mask paint node and then importing it into COPS. Definitely not the best workflow in the world, but that will be really all you've got currently. So kind of unfortunate, but yeah, that's the current state of things. So yes, unfortunate. You know what? Hey, Maitland, how's it going? Welcome. You know, I had another thought here. What if instead of concrete, how does the curve 3D interface get promoted to COPS? Because draw curve would make a good paint node. Are you? So you're talking about the curve 3D, right? This one. How does the draw curve one get promoted? It's, you're not going to be able to promote it. Like, you mean use it in Copernicus like this? Because this curve 3D was ported over to Copernicus. So that was, you know. So this is, yes, it's a curve node. Like it's the curve 3D node. But it is, there is some stuff happening here, I think. I'm not sure exactly what's. Oh, well, I guess, well, there's definitely something on the curve 3D here. I think if we looked at this, So I think that this is, I think there's some, the way that it gets promoted is here with some of these Python states and things like that. So for that, you'd have to have the state be called, I think, from that would have to be called from what are you doing?
I was just gonna get his phone.
Okay. Sorry. Little incursion of the dog today. Anyways, sorry. So yeah, I think you'd have to promote it by using the state script and things like that, and be able to pull that in. I think it would be a pretty lengthy process. I mean, the idea of bringing the geometry in and using it is not too crazy, right? Because here you can see it's just a curve node in a SOP import and then getting outputted there. So this is really an HDA, right? So this really is the view state here. This Python view state is, I think, just the same view state that is in SOPs. So that's how you would bring it over. So I'm thinking that you would need to make an HDA out of basically this, and then promote all of the, go through all of the Python state stuff and basically get those controls over as well. So that would be what I would guess would be the process of it. I wasn't involved in this at all. Obviously, I'm not really a programmer. I've done a little bit of the Python state stuff, but certainly not very much. And I'm guessing that it's in here, and there's probably I'm guessing there's some reference in here. Yes, it looks like here from side effects curve, import curve state, from side effects curve, import bind curve state template. So there's definitely some stuff in here that is pulling in, the curve viewer state, basically. So you'd have to kind of recreate it, I think, and have it move over like that. So maybe even copy and pasting it or something, because you would do SOP geometry, I believe, and you do a curve. It's a draw curve. I think the texture mask pate would be really tricky to do, because that is a more complicated process. It's like you're bringing in like a 2D volumetric geometry, I think is what it is from that. This might be more doable, right? You'd have to look at what the view state. Yeah, here's the draw curve view state, right? So here's the whole thing. And you'd have to probably copy that over and figure out a way. Yeah, because you'd have to the view state would have to talk to the node inside. So yeah, it definitely would be tricky, doable, but some work for sure. So that's about as much as I know about that one. But yeah, I think you could give it a shot. I mean, somebody made it, so it's definitely sort of possible. Yeah, no problem, Robert. Hopefully that gives you some thoughts. I mean, of course, this isn't like we're so close. Yeah, I was super close to it. I mean, all I had to do was just copy and paste and it'd be all done. But yeah, I think you could certainly play around with it and do some of that stuff. See if you could maybe make it work. Because that's not like a C++ node or anything like that. Now, there is probably some Python stuff happening behind the scenes where that stuff is like maybe being put into a Python library that's more easily callable and things like that. But, you know, from the developers. But I think in general, really the idea of that is it's just an HDA. So it's not anything too crazy. Let's see here. What? Okay, so Sarur was saying I still use Mantra, but when I render my river with the white water on top of it, do I render the white water as points or as a mesh? Well, first of all, I probably wouldn't use Mantra anymore, but I haven't done Mantra whitewater rendering in a hot minute. I think you would do it as points. I don't think you'd want to do it as a mesh, and but I thought it gets like there's like a way that it gets converted into like procedurally gets converted into a volume at render time or something like that. There's a whole new whitewater workflow in Karma, and I haven't really played with that too much, but I know that it's got proper whitewater shading and things like that in there now, so it should match up with the Mantra style stuff from before. So I would take a look at that as well, because that's a new thing, and it really shouldn't be too hard to bring your geometry over and just render it. Not any more difficult than doing a Mantra render. So yeah, I would maybe give that a shot. Well, I guess just with all the geometry and stuff like that, I guess that could be tricky, but anyways, it might be worth a shot. But I think you keep it as points in the Mantra thing. Like I said, it's been years since I've done any Mantra rendering. Even when I was using Houdini in the studio, I was rendering with Arnold, so I wasn't doing Mantra rendering. So, okay, so I'm going to go back to this sphere thing here, and I'm going to try something a little bit different. I am going to go to, let's do soil. Let's see what that breakup looks like here. Okay. Maybe the problem is that I don't have very interesting collision geometry here, which is true. But that's okay. Let's do this. Let's do that. And then let's do another sphere. I'm going to do this as an emitter. Let's bring this back like this. Make this a little smaller. Sure. That looks good. We'll do an npm source. The npm container, I'm just going to drag this up here so we have that link. I'm going to do this preset as water. And we can merge these together. Oh, you know what? That's right. I don't need to change that. Let's just leave it as is because we didn't need to add that noise in there. So let me just cut this one first. See what this looks like. Sorry, I'm just going to see if I can get a better looking like breakup here. Let's just do a tube here just to kind of give us, or let's do a, yeah, let's do a tube. That's fine. I can just make it sharp. npm collider, and this I'm going to drag the container in as well. Wire this in here. Let's do this in the z-axis. Change the number of rows like that. Let's do end caps. Cool. All right, so I'm going to do this. Just let this break apart. Compiling kernel. Hopefully this doesn't take as long as the last time. Boom, boom, boom. If anybody has any other questions or anything like that, happy to take a break from this and answer some more questions. But right now, I'm just going to be playing around with this and seeing what we can get up to. All right, breaking it apart. That's great. Let's try the soil one again, see how that works. Okay, cool. Good enough. Let's color this as, again, we'll do like a brownish color here. And then I'm going to color these as like a light blue. And this is going to be continuous. That's fine. All right, so let's just do a point velocity here. I'm going to add some curl noise to it and add a velocity which will be in the negative z. Hey, Ktal. I had asked if you had any like why it was like an OBJ file that you were looking to use. Just not 100% sure, you know, why you'd be looking at something like that. Just curious, because I think there's a lot of other, formats and things like that that might be better suited. So just curious why OBJ. Oh, you did. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that. Sorry, I just must have gotten. Oh, I see. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I have never exported an OBJ with the material, like with the material file like that. I've never had to use that to kind of send things back and forth. Yeah, I've never done that really. So I don't have like any real like specific thing that I could tell you. I think probably what you're doing is making sense. If it's working, then that's, I think, because you're saying here, believe you can use the geometry wrap with a postscript. I don't know. Have you looked into the, just curious if this is, gonna look here and just see. I don't see anything here. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, Fractaler, there's an OBJ importer. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not even sure where I would go about it. I mean, it's such an old format that not a lot of people really. I mean, I feel like not a lot of productions are using them per se, anymore. Just export OBJ from file node, set it to write, and define the path. Yep, that makes sense. What do you do then for the material file, the .mtl file? Yeah, exactly. Like Keita was saying, that exports the OBJ without the material. Yep. Yeah, I'm not sure about how that would work. Yeah, it's got to be some sort of like a script or something like that. Oh, Lyra asked, is it better to use npm solver instead of constraints? I'm guessing you're saying instead of like, are you asking, is it better than using Vellum? Is it better than using Fluid? I mean, npm isn't like, there's things that it's better for, but I would say that if you want to do like coupled simulations, that's where npm is the best for. So like if you want to couple like a solid and a fluid, that's where you're going to get the best kind of two-way interaction and stuff like that. Oh, as opposed to RBD? No, I don't think it's certainly not a replacement for RBD in any way. There are, that's weird. I don't know why it's compiling again. There are things that it can do that RBD can't do, and there's stuff RBD can do that npm can't. So I think like simple fracturing and stuff like that, I would just go with RBD. So here is kind of the cool thing about how npm works, right? Because we can have liquid actually interacting with like dirt and stuff like that, and doing some weird stuff. Now, this isn't as good as like a flip simulation here because, obviously flip is going to be, also the particle count is pretty low here. Let me see. I can change my particle separation. Maybe we'll do like this. See how that goes. Oh, also, I'm going to change this so that it doesn't start until the activation is $F is, I don't know, greater than 24, maybe? We'll try that. Yes, npm does look very cool. I agree. All right, I'm going to display these as spheres and we'll see how this goes. So at 24, the fluid is going to start shooting at it, and we'll see how that looks. There we go. In comes the fluid. My noise is seems to be a little too noisy. Hold on a second here. It's a little too random, maybe, or not random, but like moving in too many different like subtle directions, maybe. Oh, weird. Why are these not? Oh, Lyra, that's an interesting point that the OD tools exports OBJ. Yeah, maybe somebody has built something that actually exports that. That's a great point. Okay, this is very interesting. I'm going to get rid of this and do a just do a simple point wrangle. Say v add v equals 0, 0, -6. Oops. And that is correct. Okay, so now let's use this point velocity and see if we can't undo this add velocity. We'll just say, oh, that's the problem. That was the issue. It's like, what am I doing wrong here? That's really goofy. Okay, it was computing from deformation, and that's the problem. So we'll just keep the incoming, add the curl noise, and now we should be good. That's the reason we were running into problems. Great. Now we've got a much nicer, less noisy thing going on here. So that's good. Yeah, thanks for the suggestion, Lyra. That's awesome. Great call. If that exists in the OD tools, that's fantastic. Could be really helpful. All right, let's take a look at this now. I think this will work a little better now. So I'm going to turn off those. Somebody was asking, what is NPM single core or multi-core? It's actually neither. It runs on the GPU. So it's GPU accelerated. So right now my my GPU is crunching along, which thankfully I've changed a little bit about how I use my camera, and it will not be as big of an issue anymore with that. So that's exciting for me. All right, so let's take a look at this. Now, obviously, there's a lot of stepping there. You'd want to do some sub steps and things like that so that we're not running into issues with it. But let's just see here. If I go like that and I do this, let's see. Let's get a little flip book going. Yeah, it's pretty fun. I almost hear it. The other nice thing with NPM and with fluids and things like that now too is that we have the neural point surfacer too, which will do a much nicer job of surfacing all these things after you're done with them. So you can use that and get a much nicer surfaced result. it'll do a much nicer job of surfacing snow and dirt and things like that, not having to make it just like a big solid chunky thing. So yeah, so there's that to take a look at as well. If you're doing stuff with npm, really anything that's particle based you can use it for, anything that would be surfaced. So yeah, this is kind of interesting. It's doing some stuff. Let me just try one more thing here. Just gonna hit escape, and I am going to add a little bit more speed to this. Maybe -15. Hopefully that doesn't like shoot over it. Let's try this. Lenny wanted to come see what all the hype is about npm. Oh wow, that's really shooting quick out there. It's like just little like discs. All right, let's try this and do like a -2 there as well. Try that again. Let's try that. So Sarur was saying, I guess the more you add velocity to the water, the stronger it gets to push out the dirt. Yeah, of course. And you could turn down the density of the dirt as well, and that'll make it less heavy, and therefore more easily pushed away by the fluid that you're using. Yeah, so I've added more substeps here, so this won't have as big of gaps in between each of those blobs of liquid. Yeah, I like Lenny. He's a good guy. Dog heart. I heart dog. Yeah, so this would be like, this is kind of the idea. Obviously, this is like a little like water gun, basically shooting a little pile of dirt. This is not like a river coming down and you know, taking out big chunks of debris or whatever. Also, you can probably see that. I think you can see. Yeah, my should have set up some caching here. So this is not going to save the cache other than this playback here. So it's, yeah, we're just caching a little bit here, but you can see what's going on here. It looks like we're kind of cutting a big swath of like a big gap here in the dirt, and that's going to push a bunch of it away. Hey, Arvid, welcome to the stream. Nice to have you. How are you doing? Hopefully you're doing well. So yeah, we've got a little thing going on here. So we've got some dirt and pushing the dirt around and stuff like that. So yeah, this is the cool thing about npm, right? Because we can have this like coupling of different types of materials and things like that you can't really easily have in a lot of other simulation types. Vellum has some of this type of thing. Oh, cool. Yeah, no problem, Arvid. Yeah, that was a nice little kind of repackaging of some internal demos that I saw when the tools were getting put together. So I'm glad the multi-shot was helpful for you. That's great. And yes, I am active here. I do this every week. So yeah. If anybody else has any questions or thoughts or anything like that they'd like to chat about before we wrap up in a little bit, happy to do that. Happy to answer any other questions or things that might be on your mind. Just kind of playing around here with something that someone else brought up a little before, and yeah, so The reason that this is like weird looking like this with like the individual spheres is just because there's, you know, the substepping of this is just way too high to be able to. The NPM makes concrete look like jelly. Yes, there is some of that that'll happen. But what you should look into is the post NPM fracturing stuff, because when you look at like the building destruction and things like that, there are ways you can actually take your pieces and just rigidly transform them based on what the NPM simulation was doing. So that is kind of a newer workflow. Let me just hit escape here. We'll stop that. Configure building collapse. Let's see that. So these are recipes now too, which is really nice. Okay. So after the NPM solver, that's kind of the most important part of this whole simulation, because it's going to be taking the meteor and the building and deforming those basically. So once this goes, we can maybe take a little look at exactly how this works. All right, got some simulation going here. So let's take a look at this and see if it will. Okay, looks like it needs to go to frame 100. So we're going to let that cache out. So let me just hit escape here for a second. All right, is that what we're doing here? I see. End frame is 100. Yep, got it. There you go. A little idea regarding mask paint. Works okay. Labs desktop and see your CopNet and SopNet at the same time. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, this the fracturing here, obviously this is also very low, what's the word? This is low particles or high particle separation, so the particles are really big. So that probably doesn't help much with the way that this is working. But yeah, let's just kind of spin around this and see here. Okay, so once this gets to 100, we can take a look at this deformed building here and see exactly what's happening. Because this is going to actually fracture it in some interesting ways. Oh, yes, that's right. There's also an auto sleep. That's really nice in NPM now. So that'll sleep your particles if they have been, you know, sitting for too long, you know, certain velocity threshold, thing like that, you know, stuff like that. Oh, is this not going to work? Are you kidding me? Okay. That's unfortunate. All right, I'm going to let that simulate here again, fortunately. This will probably be the last thing that we do for the evening here, but because we're coming up on a couple hours, and you know, a couple hours is enough for everybody to listen to me yap. So yeah, if okay, so Fractaler has a question while we're doing this here. Got a little question. Any idea why when I navigate to my viewpoint, the far plane changes to random numbers from time to time? Far plane clip. If you're homing your camera, that can adjust the clipping. You can turn that on and off. You can change like which parts get homed in your viewport. I can show that in a second here, but I think that is why it changes. Like that could be why it's changing to random numbers. Just because if you home it with a certain thing selected, it's going to change a bit. I think that would probably be the main reason why it would be happening. Oh, Carlos is asking. This is actually not even in the content library. It's just you just tab and drop it down. It's just npm configure something. It's a recipe, like preset. Oh, I'm going past 100, so we're all set here now. All right, so let's take a look at this. So I think what this does is looks at the last frame of the simulation and looks at how to fracture the pieces. Yeah, no problem, Carlos. And it should do some maybe remeshing and some fracturing and things like that, and should give us... Oh, excuse me. It's not nice for me to yawn in the microphone. Sorry. But yeah, there's lots of great presets. I think there's a bunch of new like recipe presets for the pyro stuff as well. Those were in the keynote or in the keynote. All right, we're getting there. Come on. Remesh. I don't know. I think I need a new computer, guys. I think that's what we're... Oh, okay. Fractaler saying what I do generally is changing the homing auto adjust to near and far clip planes. When this is done calculating, I'll hit T. We're fracturing. We're shattering. Yeah, this is quite the heavy setup, but hopefully it'll give us a nice output here. Let's see. Well, I have an RTX 3000 series card, so it would be a big upgrade for me. But yes, I've heard the 5000s aren't a huge upgrade, but the GPU isn't all that I'd like to upgrade. Need a new CPU as well. Come on. Fracture, fracture. Oh, we're deforming. Great. Great, we're getting there. Hey, there we go. There's our building. Yeah, look at that. That's pretty cool. So now we've got like rigid stuff that's like deforming and like smashing and stuff. Bunch of little fractured pieces and stuff here. Let's see if we go back. How does this play? Yeah, that's pretty cool. Let's see what this looks like. I mean, obviously this is a little jello-y, but I mean, it is like rigid pieces now, which is kind of cool. Let's see. Oh, sorry. I keep forgetting to hit that D button. Okay, so if you do camera and you do neither clip plane, that'll make sure that it doesn't adjust either of them. So as long as you have it set like this, it shouldn't be adjusting these. And if it is, and you can have like a reproducible error there. Yeah, if you have, so if you're able to reproduce this, changing when it's set to neither clip plane, definitely log that as a bug. But if you have it this way, it's going to auto change those. This should never change them. So hopefully that sort of answers it a little bit or helps you a little. All right, let's see here. I'm going to do this again. Boop. I'd like to see what this looks like in motion. The jello-y parameter would be great for rods inside. Yeah. Well, it's definitely not fast. No problem, Fractaler. Yeah, if like I said, if you have a reproducible way of getting that to happen, just log a bug, because that doesn't sound right. So I want to see a couple frames of this, and then we'll wrap it up. Well, hopefully everybody had a fun evening tonight, just asking some questions, getting some random answers, and maybe some not answers. But yeah, I always have fun being able to kind of chat about these things and, see what we can get up to. When I try to reproduce it, it's all normal now. Yeah, that's always the case, isn't it? But yeah, maybe you'll be able to get somewhere with it. Yeah, that is kind of jello-y, isn't it? Well, I think, honestly, I have a feeling that some of that is because some of this is because the building is pretty low resolution, so that might be part of it as well. But it does actually have like rigid geometry, I guess. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's something kind of interesting. Yeah. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there because this is going to take forever. So I'm just going to let it be. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. That's what it looks like. Kind of fun. Anyways, all right. Well, I think we'll say that this is where we're going to leave this for today. yeah, thanks everybody for coming out tonight, asking questions, chatting up a little bit. I will be putting this file online if anybody wants to take a look at it. Of course, there's not anything overly interesting in there, but you could get in there and take a look.